Hello?
Hey, Patrick, how's the sabbatical going?
It's great. I mean, I'm not thinking about videos or movies or...
Yeah, listen, break time's over. We need you to get back here.
Wait, what? I just got here.
Time moves faster on YouTube, man. People have already forgotten your name. We need another video.
Can't you just get my parents to do it?
I tried. They're in Hawaii with Sage for Thanksgiving.
Sage?
Look, the new Star Wars trailer just dropped, and I think you should be the first guy to make a video about it. You can talk about color grading or your dumb Felicity theory.
Look, I told you a year ago, no more videos about Star Wars movies.
You said the same thing about Mission Impossible. Here, I'm gonna send you a link. And no tricks this time. I don't want 20 minutes of cats in space. Look, I gotta go. I'm helping Thomas Frank launch his music career.
What?
Bye.
It's an instinct.
Now I understand. I'm not going to make a video about Star Wars movies. I'll make one about... On November 13th, 1998, the first trailer for Star Wars Episode I: The Phantom Menace debuted in theaters in front of the movie Meet Joe Black, and it hit the world with the force of multiple speeding cars. So many people bought tickets just to see the trailer that it boosted the box office take for that weird 3-hour movie where Brad Pitt plays the Grim Reaper. Some theaters even showed the trailer again after the movie to convince people to sit through it. This one trailer changed popular culture, ushering in an era in which the mere release of marketing materials is nearly as big a deal as the movie itself, in which fans study trailers frame by frame to try to decipher hidden meanings and unearth plot points. It made trailers into events, and to this day, no trailer is as big an event as a Star Wars trailer. Also, stick around to the end of the video and I'll play that clip of Brad Pitt getting hit by the cars again. Okay friends, I'm back. Now let's talk about movie trailers. Through the history of cinema, trailers evolved from pretty dull, rudimentary previews that just strung a handful of scenes together into their own fascinating medium. I'm not going to go as far as to call them art, because they're not. They're pieces of marketing designed to sell you something. But while they're not art, similar principles apply. Both art and trailers use the tools available in a chosen artistic medium, arranging elements so as to express an idea. But while art does this to express the artist's personal vision, trailers communicate the idea that
you need to see this goddamn movie.
And few trailers do this as well or as skillfully as the trailers for Lucasfilm's current Star Wars trilogy. They're not just cramming a bunch of cool shots and funny jokes into 2 minutes, they're designed to give the viewer a powerful emotional experience, while also, over the course of 5 years, communicate an evolving idea about the series. These don't have the depth of actual movies because, again, they're just pieces of marketing designed to sell stuff, but there's some really fascinating craft on display, and as examples of film editing, I think they're worth analyzing. So now we're gonna analyze the shit out of them. And just to make it clear what we'll be talking about, it's the 2 teasers and the final trailer for The Force Awakens, the teaser and final trailer for The Last Jedi, and the teaser and final trailer for The Rise of Skywalker. 7 trailers, that's it, let's go. If the Phantom Menace trailer is the most important trailer in film history, I would argue that the first teaser for The Force Awakens is a pretty close second.
There has been an awakening. Have you felt it?
It might have been 9 years since the last Star Wars movie, but it would be continuing a story that left off in 1983 and bringing back the original characters. Somehow, no one really knew what this movie would be. The Force Awakens teaser had to reintroduce Star Wars, set the tone, and establish the meta-narrative of the marketing that would continue over the next 5 years through the whole trilogy. We'll get back to that part in a bit. Look, we've all seen this trailer, and we probably all know it by heart. I still remember exactly where I was sitting when it hit the internet on November 28th, 2014. So let's look at the trailer itself and break down what it's doing. We had all waited 9 years for a look at new Star Wars, and then the trailer begins, and it makes us wait even more. It slowly fades in on a static shot of a desert, and nothing happens for a full 10 seconds. And then, for the following minute, after every shot, the trailer cuts back to black, making us wait and hold our breath for the next one. It's reinforcing that same idea that made people pay money to watch that Phantom Menace trailer back in '98. The idea that Star Wars footage is valuable and precious, and we should savor every second of it. Okay, so back to that first shot. When something finally happens, it's this. It's a mix of old and new. The desert setting and stormtrooper armor are familiar to us, but what's not familiar is seeing a stormtrooper without his helmet, portrayed as a real character, and also a black stormtrooper. And each successive shot continues this mix of old and new. We've got a practical protocol droid in a desert scrapyard. That's familiar, but it's a new kind of ball droid we've never seen before. It's got stormtroopers, but this time with subjective filmmaking, shot from their perspective with handheld camera work. We've got a desert and a practical land speeder, but with a new character and a speeder design we've never seen. We've got rebel pilots flying X-Wings, but they're flying inside a planet's atmosphere over water. And of course there's a villain in a black cloak, but he has this crazy new kind of lightsaber. And through it all, there's new music playing that is clearly by John Williams, but it's not using any familiar Star Wars themes. The effect of all of this is overwhelming. We're excited and anxious and trying to take it all in, reconcile this mix of familiar and new. In every shot, our brains are screaming, "What is going on?" There's no context. We don't fully understand what we're looking at. And then it cuts to black again, and we wait, and then it hits. The classic opening Star Wars theme in all its glory over the image of the Millennium Falcon blasting off. It's a pure uncut hit of visual and auditory nostalgia straight to the pleasure centers of our brains. It's like taking a drug. It's new and cool and scary and unfamiliar, and then there's that pure rush of euphoria. Wait, what am I talking about? I don't know anything about drugs. I'm an anxious nerd who's afraid of everything. The trailer gives us a lot of new stuff to take in and process, and in the end, rewards us with the nostalgia we crave. The warm feeling of the Star Wars we know and love. It's the spoonful of sugar that makes the medicine go down, even if that medicine is also pretty cool. And that idea, the use of classic elements from the original trilogy as payoffs and rewards, the interplay between old and new, is what would drive all the trailers for these movies. The exact same thing happens in the second teaser for The Force Awakens. This is the one that's basically a big build-up to this.
Chewie, we're home.
It's like Lucasfilm is making a deal with the audience. You sit through the first 2 minutes, you pay attention to the new stuff, and then as a reward, you get to see your friends Han and Chewie again. This is the moment where everyone screams and cries and punches their friends because they're so excited. But beyond continuing the use of nostalgia as a payoff, this teaser establishes the running meta-narrative that continues through every trailer in the series. Even divorced from the films they're advertising, what the trailers are really communicating to us is the transition from the old generation to a new one. It uses familiar elements to get us invested in the unfamiliar ones. It uses our nostalgia to sell us on something new. This teaser begins with John Williams' iconic Force theme, aka the Binary Sunset, played on a solo French horn. When we hear that, we think of this. That original feeling of yearning for something more, for some kind of adventure. And here it's played over images of the destroyed iconography of the original trilogy. A crashed Star Destroyer, Darth Vader's ruined helmet, what appears to be Luke's old lightsaber. And there's a voiceover from Luke Skywalker, which isn't from the new movie at all. It's just taken from Return of the Jedi.
The Force is strong in my family. My father has it. I have it. And my sister has it.
But here, stripped of its original context in that film, when he says,
"You have that power too,"
it feels like he's addressing the new characters from this movie, since the trailer immediately cuts to a montage of them. The only characters we see in close-up are the leads of the new movie: Rey, Finn, Kylo Ren, and Poe. And the image we see right before Luke's line is a lightsaber being handed from one person to another. It's literally a torch being passed.
"You have that power too. In time, you'll learn to use it as I have."
This dialogue, originally from 32 years earlier, is used to bridge two generations. It's the magic of trailer editing, using old material in a new context to communicate an idea, to make the new characters seem important to audiences because Luke Skywalker is telling them they are. We care about them because Luke does. Guys, editing is wild. And it gets even wilder in the final trailer for The Force Awakens. This is where we need to start talking about the music. Starting with this one, all the trailers for the series would use primarily newly recorded music, with other composers such as Frederick Lloyd, John Samuel Hansen, Chris Westlake, and Blake Robinson rearranging John Williams' original themes. The first minute of this trailer is devoted to the three central new characters. And then, as the two trailers before did, it rewards us with nostalgia. As the trailer cuts to the Millennium Falcon, a new arrangement of Han Solo and the Princess kicks in. The original recording from Empire Strikes Back sounds like this. But instead of a light love theme, now it's a sweeping epic anthem full of Hans Zimmer-esque percussion.
There are stories about what happened.
And as soon as it begins, even in its new form, we have that hit of nostalgia. We're reminded of Han and Leia, and then, moments later, Han himself appears. This midway point in the trailer establishes something each film's final trailer would do. A brief scene in the middle that connects the old generation and the new. So here, Han is talking to Rey and Finn. The full trailers for The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker would take this further by slowing the trailer down to let the audience sit in this emotional moment. The Last Jedi's trailer cuts out all music for a long moment between Kylo Ren and Leia. The trailer cuts back and forth between close-ups of their faces, linking old and new, mother and son. The new trailer for The Rise of Skywalker pauses in the middle for a scene with the heroes of the new trilogy talking to C-3PO, who refers to them as
my friends.
3PO was once the friend of Luke, Han, and Leia, and now has been passed down to the heroes of the new trilogy. And here it feels like he's saying goodbye. It's pretty much the most emotional moment I can recall C-3PO having in the entire series. And the music underscoring it is Yoda's theme.
What are you doing there, 3PO?
Taking one last look, sir.
Most people watching aren't going to notice that on first viewing. I mean, I didn't. But it gives a subconscious reminder of other beloved supporting characters from the original films. Old and new are connected via dialogue and via music. For what is, again, a piece of marketing, it's pretty powerful stuff. Hi, it's me again. Sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to bring something up because we're talking about Star Wars and we're only about a month away from Episode 9. So last year I made this video called Solving the Mystery of J.J. Abrams, in which I attempted to figure out who Abrams is as a storyteller and what he'll do with Episode 9 by watching all 84 episodes of the TV series Felicity, the first show he ever created and the only long-running project he ever stayed on until the end. So, I want to go on the record again with my theory about how The Rise of Skywalker will end, and yes, I'm basing this 100% on Felicity. First off, there will be time travel. Secondly, Rey and Kylo Ren will get together, like, romantically. And finally, she'll end up back home on Jakku where she started. Now, do I want this to happen? Not really. What are the odds that it will? Very poor, like 1,000 to 1. But I'm sticking with this theory, so if it happens, you know who said it first. Okay, back to the video. And to get back to the music, throughout the other trailers in the series, there are some really interesting things happening. The teaser for The Last Jedi is mostly focused on Rey's training, as she learns more about the Force. And the music overlaps Rey's theme and the Force theme. So it sounds like this. So while we see these images of her learning more about the Force, the music is reinforcing it by doing the exact same thing. They're becoming one. It builds to a climax where the music goes into epic action mode, but now it shifts between an epic version of the Force theme and an epic version of Rey's theme. In John Williams' score for The Force Awakens, the final track is called The Jedi Steps, and it's literally the soundtrack to two generations meeting, as Rey arrives on Ahch-To to deliver the lightsaber to Luke. And continuing the trailer's theme of transitioning from one generation to the next, the final trailer for The Last Jedi uses the Jedi Steps throughout, like this.
Seen this roster.
The Rise of Skywalker teaser takes the ongoing narrative of the new generation replacing the old and makes it even more explicit. The opening scene focuses on Rey, but with a voiceover from Luke who seems to be speaking to her. And let's listen to what he says.
1,000 generations live in you now.
There's the word generation again. And then what does the text in the trailer say? Hey, there it is. I wonder if that's what they've been getting at for the past 5 years. The trailer is mostly set to a sweeping epic version of Princess Leia's theme. So while we're watching a montage of mostly the newer characters, there's that connection to the original films. And then, when we finally get the shot of Leia herself, especially with the knowledge that Carrie Fisher passed away 2 years ago, it hits even harder. And importantly, in the shot, she's giving Rey a big ol' hug. We've got the connection between old and new, and Rey is crying, and maybe I am too, I don't know. And just like the original Force Awakens trailers, we have the final payoff of older classic elements. The image of the Death Star and the sound of Palpatine's laugh. But instead of joyous, this payoff is ominous. The narrative here seems to be that in this transition from one generation to the next, the final step for the new generation is to overcome the same challenge that the previous one faced. So maybe that's the plot of the movie. I don't know. We'll find out soon. But now there's the latest trailer, the final trailer, the last trailer of this entire trilogy. It begins as almost all of them have, with Rey. Some of the early imagery, with her climbing through the wreckage of old Imperial ships, directly calls back to the first trailer to The Force Awakens. It's already playing on our nostalgia for 4 years ago. But musically, this is doing a lot. Like, more than I can really analyze myself, because I don't really know anything about music theory. So I brought in someone who does. So Brian Matolius is a friend of mine who's a really talented composer. I've worked with him on a bunch of projects, and he also happens to be an expert on John Williams' Star Wars music. So I've got him on a call right here. Brian, thank you for joining us. Can you break down what is going on musically in this Star Wars trailer?
All right, so that beginning section is in the key of D. That section is meant to be like Star Wars flavored. Like a LaCroix is to a lime, as this music is to Star Wars music. It uses the harmonic language of Star Wars. It will feel like Star Wars without using any recognizable themes.
So in the first section of this trailer, there's this horn part that kind of slowly rises up toward the foreground of the music. What's going on with that?
Oh, yeah. So that horn part is actually from Leia's theme, but it's not the melody. It's actually what's called the counter melody, and it's something that runs along with, but against the melody.
So here's Leia's theme, and now listen for the horn part.
That's actually pre-existing material from A New Hope that's meant to go along with Leia's theme. But Leia's theme is nowhere to be heard, so it's essentially Leia's theme without Leia. It's Leia's theme music without the melody.
Long have I waited.
The trailer seems to be aware that everyone is aware that Carrie Fisher's no longer with us. I could be reading into that way too much, and probably am. But the trailer does say, I'm going to have one last look at my friends, and like a second later, Rey is embracing Carrie Fisher. So all bets are off. After that section with Leia's theme, the music builds and builds and builds, and it cuts out when we get a close-up of C-3PO. And they really want us to pay attention to what is being said here. And the way they do that is basically by bringing the volume down in the music and by reorchestrating it so that it's just the high woodwinds.
What are you doing there, 3PO?
The high woodwinds are playing Yoda's theme, actually, even though Yoda is nowhere to be seen. The chords for the main theme that everyone knows, da 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 da, what you actually are doing is going from D major to E major. So D major, E major. I played along on the piano to this trailer dozens of times, and I think it was maybe about the fifth or sixth time that I realized why they're using Yoda's theme there when there's really no visual reason to. And it really comes down to it telegraphing the key change that's coming immediately afterwards. Yoda's theme is interesting harmonically because it basically has the tonic chord, which is D major, and then it goes immediately up to E major. What that does, it sets you up for the big title card, This Christmas, which is where the key changes to E major. So the beginning section is in D. You got the Yoda section in the middle.
What are you doing there, 3PO?
Taking one last look, sir.
Which is very short, but it does go D, E, D, E. So it's like pulling in either direction. And then immediately afterwards, bam, you got your E major section. And that E major section is the music that we all know and love, the opening title crawl, but in E major. And the opening title crawl, as it's used right here in the trailer, is like a chorus from a pop song. It repeats it several times. It even reharmonizes it a little bit on the second time through. Just to make sure that you're not getting tired of it. And it got there by doing a step up key change. Some examples of this are I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys. And probably the most famous key change I can think of is Whitney Houston's I'll Always Love You. It's a very powerful compositional technique. The trailer does essentially the same thing. It goes from D major to E major and hits that familiar music that you know and love several times as if it were a chorus in a new key, and it brings the house down. So essentially, the person who put together this trailer music treated all the themes as if it were a pop song for the greatest dramatic effect.
That was great. Brian, thank you so much for joining us and helping explain all the stuff that I couldn't have done myself. But now, back to the black backdrop. So maybe you're watching this going, hey Patrick, these are just trailers for movies about space wizards intended for children. There's not that much to analyze. And to that I say, yes, there totally is. Do you really think Disney isn't putting everything into the marketing for some of the most anticipated movies of all time? That they're not hiring the best editors who are using every editing trick in the book to subconsciously influence us? I'm pretty sure everything that I've mentioned here was totally intentional, plus probably a bunch more tricks that I missed. It works like this. The more goosebumps we get from these trailers, the more money they're going to make. But what of Rogue One and Solo, the other Star Wars movies released during the Disney era? While they're not part of the core Skywalker saga, they're both directly tied to it, so there's plenty of nostalgia to weaponize. Rogue One takes a popular trailer trend and applies it to Star Wars. You know all those trailers set to sad, slow covers of pop songs? Well, these trailers use sad, slow piano versions of the Force theme and the Imperial March. It gives us that hit of nostalgia, but with a new feeling. The trailers are filled with familiar imagery from the original trilogy. Rebel pilots, the Yavin base, stormtroopers, Star Destroyers, the Death Star, AT-ATs, but it's all shown from a perspective and in a style we haven't seen before. It's darker and grittier, and you know what? That is appealing to a lot of people. It's doing a similar thing to the sequel trilogy, showing us stuff we already know, but in a way that feels new. And Rogue One made $1 billion, so you know what? I guess it worked. And then there's the weird case of Solo, the bastard stepchild of Star Wars. It's a prequel about one of the most popular characters in the entire series. There is so much nostalgia there for the trailers to tap into, but instead they just ignore most of it. The only original John Williams theme they use is this quick burst of the Force theme at the end that honestly sounds like it came from a theme park ride. The general principle of every Star Wars trailer has always been, give the audience goosebumps. And the Solo trailers don't even seem to try. Is this the reason the movie was way less successful than all the others? I doubt it's that simple, but I think that's part of it. I mean, what kind of Star Wars trailer doesn't make you feel something? Every Star Wars trailer has always made the movie seem important. And the Solo trailers just seem kinda throwaway and disposable. Now, I want to reiterate, these trailers are pieces of marketing. Martin Scorsese would not call them cinema, and you know what? Neither would I. But they use cinematic language and tools in a way that I think is worth studying. There's an emotional journey across these 15 minutes worth of trailers. The introduction of a new generation and the departure of an older one. The final Rise of Skywalker trailer ends with a close-up of Rey, our new protagonist, hearing the voices of Luke and Leia. It's telling us that while we'll always have those original elements from the original movies that we know and love, the story has changed hands to a new generation of characters. The cycle is complete. So when you get chills or tear up watching one of these things, it's because these editors are very good at their job, and they know exactly how to weaponize your nostalgia. Ha! Get the title in there one more time. All right, let's roll it again. Okay, it's done. You got your Star Wars video. Can I please go back to the beach now?
Yeah, in a minute. First thing though, did you know that somebody made a whole Skillshare course about how to do sponsor segues like you?
Wait, what? I didn't realize the way I did sponsor segues was actually that unique. I mean, all I do is look for some excuse to bring up a specific class, like the one Dan Liu did about color grading, but I mentioned that it's on Skillshare and that Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes and... Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, that course is really good.
Now bring it home.
It's sponsor time. Look, if you've been watching this channel for a while, you know I care probably too much about color grading. And if you want to know more about it, like how it works, what it means, and how to do it yourself, you should check out this class, Color Grading for Filmmaking, The Vision, Art, and Science by Dan Liu. And yeah, it's on Skillshare, who I'm really happy keeps supporting this channel because it is a great site that I actually use a lot. There are thousands of classes there, not just about filmmaking, but about everything from music to cooking to interior design. If you sign up now at the link in the description, you can get 2 months of unlimited classes totally free. So many skills can be shared and learned in 2 months. So go click that link, sign up, help out the channel, and learn some stuff. Hello, welcome back, and hey, I'm back too, like really. I took it easy for the past month, but now I'm feeling refreshed and excited to be making new videos again. I wanna give a huge thanks to my friend Brian Metolius for helping out with this video. Brian is a brilliant composer who I've worked with on videos on this channel and on theme songs for my podcast. He's also the composer for the hit off-Broadway play Puffs. There's a link in the description to his site, so seriously, go hire him. He's great. He knows so much about John Williams. Also, very important announcement, our official merch store is now open. And yes, there is a shirt that says, this is a movie about space wizards intended for children. So if that's the kind of thing that you want, link is down there. Go buy some stuff. Go check out the Patreon to support the channel and get access to exclusive stuff. Listen to Can't Get Enough of Keanu and the Infinity Podcast every week. Go visit our subreddit and follow me on all those social medias. I'll see you in a couple weeks. Goodbye.